I tried to surprise my boyfriend on his birthday. I ended up surprising myself. If you had asked me a year ago who I was, I would have said, a good girlfriend, the thoughtful one, the planner. I'd always been that person, the one who remembered birthdays, who bought the perfect Christmas gifts, who surprised friends with little gestures. And with Chris, my boyfriend of almost 3 years, I doubled down. I loved him. I thought we had a future. So of course I wanted to make his birthday special. He'd always complained about birthdays being just another day. His parents divorced when he was a kid, and apparently they never really celebrated. I made it my mission to rewrite that narrative. His first birthday with me, I threw a small dinner party with his closest friends. The second, I organized a weekend trip to the mountains. This year, his 30th, I wanted to top it all. The plan was simple. He'd told me he wanted a low-key evening. Just us, maybe dinner out. But I knew better. I secretly arranged a surprise party at his favorite bar, invited his friends, even booked a private room. I bought decorations, ordered a cake shaped like a whiskey bottle, his favorite, and had everyone sworn to secrecy. The pièce de résistance, I was going to surprise him at his apartment earlier in the day. I'd convinced my boss to give me the afternoon off. The plan? Pick up his favorite takeout, sneak into his place with the spare key, decorate a little, and be waiting when he walked in. I imagined the look on his face, the joy, the disbelief, the kiss he'd give me for being the best girlfriend ever. I had no idea the disbelief would be mine. The days leading up to his birthday, Chris seemed distracted. Not in a huge way, just a little less present. He was on his phone more, quick to flip the screen down when I walked by. He seemed antsy, but when I asked, he brushed it off as work stress. I chalked it up to nerves about turning 30. People freak out about milestones, right? The night before his birthday, I asked if he wanted me to come over in the morning. He said no. He had an early meeting and would be swamped all day. He suggested I come by in the evening instead. I remember feeling a tiny sting at being shut out of his birthday morning, but I let it go. After all, I had a bigger surprise planned. He'd forgive me for ignoring his instructions once he saw the effort I'd put in. So on the day itself, I woke up giddy. I picked up sushi from his favorite spot, grabbed balloons and a bottle of his preferred bourbon, and drove to his apartment. Key in hand, heart racing, I quietly let myself in. And that's when everything unraveled. Walking into Chris's apartment that afternoon is a memory burned into me so vividly that I can still smell it if I close my eyes. The first thing I noticed was that his car was already in the lot. My brain rationalized it in a split second. Oh, maybe his meeting got canceled. Maybe I'll get to surprise him even earlier. I even smiled to myself as I quietly climbed the stairs, arms full of sushi and balloons bouncing awkwardly in the stairwell. The second thing was the sound. A muffled laugh, high-pitched and distinctly feminine, echoing faintly through the thin apartment door. I froze. My stomach dropped. For a full 30 seconds, I stood outside, key hovering at the lock, my brain spinning with desperate rationalizations. Maybe his sister dropped by, maybe a neighbor, maybe he was watching something on TV. But the laugh came again, followed by a sound that ripped the breath out of my lungs. His voice, low, playful, intimate, a tone I knew too well. My hands shook as I slid the key in, heart thundering so loud I thought it would give me away. I pushed the door open just a crack, just enough to peek in. And there they were, Chris and a woman I didn't recognize, tangled together on the couch, her legs draped across his lap, his hand on her thigh, their mouths pressed together like a scene from a cheap romance movie. The sushi bag slid from my fingers, hitting the floor with a dull thud, and they both froze. She was the first to notice me. Her eyes widened, and she scrambled upright, fumbling for her shirt. Chris whipped his head around, face pale, eyes wide with the shock of someone caught in the act. "Babe," he started, but the words sounded so wrong, so tainted, that bile rose in my throat. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at the scene. The half-empty wine bottle on the table, the trail of clothes leading from the hallway, the balloons in my hand swaying mockingly as if they were part of some sick joke. "This is what your meeting looks like?" I finally spat, my voice trembling. He stammered. He always had a quick mouth, always knew how to charm, how to spin a story. But in that moment, the words tangled uselessly. It's not what it looks like. We were just... The other woman snorted, like even she couldn't stomach that cliche. She grabbed her purse and muttered something about not signing up for this mess before bolting out the door, leaving me, him, and the shattered remains of my delusion. I stood there, still holding the balloons. Sushi spilled at my feet and felt my world collapse in on itself. The first emotion wasn't anger. It was humiliation. I had spent weeks planning his birthday surprise, spent money I didn't really have, spent hours coordinating with his friends for the party later that night. I had told myself over and over again how happy he'd be, how loved he'd feel. And instead, I walked in with balloons and bourbon to find him already celebrating with someone else. I dropped the balloons. They bobbed sadly on the carpet as I rounded on him. "How long?" I demanded, my voice sharp, cutting through the suffocating silence. His eyes darted everywhere but at me. "A few weeks. It's nothing serious. I swear, you mean everything to me." "Nothing serious?" I cut him off, laughing bitterly. "So, you risked everything we built for nothing serious? You let me plan a party, invite our friends, buy you gifts, while you're screwing around on the couch?" He tried to step closer, hands outstretched, like he could smooth this over with touch. I recoiled. Don't you dare come near me." The desperation started to seep into his voice then. "It was a mistake, okay? I got caught up. She was just easy. But you're who I want. You're the one I love. Please don't throw us away over this." Throw us away, as if I was the one holding the match. Something snapped inside me. All the energy I'd spent loving him, supporting him, planning for him, it flipped into pure, icy fury. "You already threw us away," I said coldly. "You don't get to blame me for the ashes." He crumpled onto the couch, the same couch where seconds ago he'd been wrapped up with her, and put his head in his hands. "I can fix this," he whispered. "I'll cancel everything tonight. I'll tell everyone I'm sick. I'll cut her off. Just give me a chance." And that's when it hit me like a freight train. Tonight, the party, our friends, all of them waiting to yell surprise for a man who'd already surprised me in the worst possible way. I laughed then, a hollow, broken sound. "You don't need to cancel," I said. "I'll do it, because there's no party, no us, not anymore." I grabbed my keys, left the sushi, the bourbon, the balloons, and walked out. When I stepped outside Chris's apartment that day, I thought the worst was over. I'd seen it with my own eyes. I'd confronted him. I'd walked away. But betrayal isn't a clean cut. It bleeds into everything. The first problem hit me before I'd even made it home. The surprise party. Dozens of people were planning to meet that night. Friends, co-workers, even his sister was driving in from 2 towns over. They'd bought gifts. They were expecting me to usher Chris in, to watch his face light up with joy. The thought made me physically ill. I sat in my car in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I had 2 choices. Let the party go ahead, pretend everything was fine, and choke down the truth for one more night. Or call it off, and let everyone know what had really happened. I couldn't stomach the first option. So I pulled out my phone and started typing. The first text went to his sister. "Hey, I know you're on your way, but the party tonight is canceled. Chris and I broke up. Please don't come. I'll explain later." Her reply came fast. "Wait, what? You broke up? Today? What happened?" My hands shook as I typed back. "I caught him cheating. Just now. I walked in on him." There was a long pause before she responded. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say." I didn't either. Next, I sent a group text to the main party thread. "Hi everyone, I hate to do this, but tonight's party is canceled. Chris and I are no longer together. Please don't ask for details right now. Thank you for understanding." Within minutes, my phone blew up. Shocked replies. "Wait, what? Are you serious? Do you need anything?" And a few that cut even deeper. Honestly, I'm not that surprised. That last one stopped me cold. Not that surprised. Did they know? Did they suspect? Had everyone seen cracks in my perfect relationship while I was blind? The idea made my humiliation swell tenfold. By that evening, my mom had called 3 times. She'd heard from my aunt, who'd seen my cousin post in the group chat that the party was off. News spreads fast in families, especially bad news. When I finally answered, she was already crying. "Honey, what happened? You sounded so happy just yesterday." I told her everything in halting sentences, my voice breaking over the sushi bag, the balloons, the couch. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, "You don't deserve this. You never did. Come home this weekend, okay? We'll take care of you." It should have comforted me, but instead it made me feel like a child again, like I'd failed at something everyone expected me to succeed at. Over the next few days, the social fallout took shape. Some friends rallied around me immediately, bringing wine, sending memes, dragging me out for walks so I wouldn't sink into the couch. Others were quieter, too quiet. I noticed who didn't reach out, who still liked Chris's Instagram posts, who posted photos with him at bars as if nothing had happened. And then, the dagger. One mutual friend admitted, after too many drinks, that they'd seen him with another girl weeks ago. They hadn't said anything because they didn't want to get in the middle. That betrayal, in some ways, hurt more than his, because it meant my humiliation wasn't just private, it was public, a secret I was the last to know. Of course, Chris tried to salvage things. He sent flowers to my door the next morning. He left voicemails, his voice thick with desperation. "I screwed up. Please don't throw away what we had. It was a mistake. I can't lose you." One message in particular made me laugh bitterly. It didn't mean anything. I didn't even like her. She was just there. As if that made it better. As if reducing her to a convenience would erase the image of his hands on her body on his couch. The worst part of me still wanted to believe him. To rewind. To erase the memory. That's the cruelty of betrayal. Your heart lags behind your brain. But every time I wavered, I pictured the balloons dropping to the floor, the sushi bag hitting the carpet, her scrambling for her clothes. And the hesitation hardened into resolve. Canceling the party had been brutal. Facing friends and family was humiliating. But the hardest part was the quiet after. The nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship, every late meeting, every turned-down invitation, every unexplained mood swing. Suddenly, they all had new meanings, ugly meanings. The hardest realization wasn't that Chris had cheated. It was that he had chosen, deliberately, to let me walk into that apartment. He knew it was his birthday. He knew I was the kind of girlfriend who planned surprises. And still, he risked it. Because on some level, he didn't think I'd catch him. Or worse, he didn't care if I did. Deflated, sinking into sad rubber wrinkles. And the party decorations I'd bought sat unopened in my trunk, a mocking reminder of the life I'd tried to build with someone who didn't value it. I wasn't angry yet. That would come later. Right then, I was just hollow. But hollowness doesn't last forever. The first week after Chris, I felt like I was drifting through a fog. The breakup wasn't just an emotional split, it was a logistical one. His toothbrush was still in my bathroom, his hoodie draped over my chair, his stupid half-empty protein shake containers in the fridge. Every object felt radioactive. So I began the purge. I stuffed his clothes into garbage bags, one by one, each t-shirt and hoodie a fresh jab to the ribs. I left the bags by the door, texted him once, "Your things are ready. Pick them up by Saturday or I'll donate them," and turned my phone face down. When he came by, I didn't answer the door. I watched from the peephole as he stood there, knocking softly at first, then harder, then finally slumping his head against the doorframe. He muttered something I couldn't hear. After a while, he left. The bag's gone. It felt like an exorcism. The next step was therapy. My best friend insisted. She sent me a link, even offered to sit in the waiting room if I needed. The therapist was a soft-spoken woman with silver hair and an office full of plants. At first, I just cried, ugly, hiccuping sobs that embarrassed me. But she didn't flinch. She just handed me tissues and said quietly, "This isn't weakness, this is grief." That reframing cracked something open, because I realized I wasn't just mourning Chris. I was mourning the life I thought I had, the birthdays I'd imagined, the future dog walks, the holidays, the maybe kids, the shared mortgage. All of it died on that couch with him and her. Therapy became my anchor. Every week, I unpacked another layer. The humiliation, the anger at my friends who weren't surprised, the shame of canceling the party. Slowly, the fog thinned. Then came the anger. At first, it scared me. I'd always been the nice girl, the peacemaker. But suddenly, I was seething. At Chris for cheating, at his friends for covering, at myself for ignoring the warning signs. I remember one night I found an old birthday card he'd given me, with "Forever Yours" scrawled inside. I ripped it into confetti and flushed it down the toilet. Childish maybe, but God, it felt good. I started running, blasting angry playlists, pounding the pavement until my lungs burned. Each mile was a release, a reminder that my body was mine, my strength was mine. The hardest part wasn't deleting Chris from my phone, it was deleting him from my social circle. Some friends stayed loyal to him. "He made a mistake," they'd say. "People screw up. Are you sure you don't want to give him another chance?" Those people quietly faded from my life. Others doubled down on me, sending late-night texts, dragging me to brunch, reminding me I was more than this betrayal. They were my lifeline. But the humiliation lingered. I couldn't shake the image of all those guests waiting for the canceled party, whispering, speculating. Every time I walked into a room, I wondered, do they know? Do they see me as the fool who showed up with balloons while he was cheating? That paranoia took months to fade. One night, maybe 3 months in, I realized something had shifted. I was cooking dinner for myself, not for us. I was humming to music, and for the first time in ages, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel humiliated. I felt free. Free from his excuses. Free from carrying the weight of perfect girlfriend on my shoulders. Free from planning birthdays for someone who didn't even want to be celebrated by me. I wasn't healed, not fully, but I wasn't broken anymore either. About 6 months later, I ran into Chris by accident, at a coffee shop of all places. He looked older, worn, like the affair hadn't turned into the fairy tale he'd imagined. He smiled weakly, asked how I was. And you know what? I didn't shake, I didn't cry. I didn't even feel tempted. I just looked at him, thought about the sushi rotting on his floor, the balloons sagging in the corner, and said, "I'm better, thanks." Then I turned, walked out, and left him with his burnt coffee and his regrets. It's been over a year now. His birthday rolls around and I don't flinch. The date is just a date. I've learned that betrayal doesn't define me. It scarred me, yes. But scars are proof of survival. Next birthday I plan, it'll be my own, and it'll be a damn good one. I found a jewelry receipt in my boyfriend's jacket. The gift wasn't for me. When I tell people the story now, they ask me if there were signs. And the honest answer? Yes, of course there were. But the thing about signs is that they're easy to see in the rearview mirror. At the time, I thought I was just being paranoid. I'd been with Mark for 4 years. We lived together for almost 3. To most people, we looked like a stable, happy couple. We did Sunday grocery runs together. We had a joint Costco membership. We'd been talking tentatively about marriage, not in the down-on-one-knee sense, but in the when we're ready, we'll do it kind of way. Mark wasn't flashy. He wasn't the kind of guy who surprised you with flowers or whisked you away for a weekend trip. But he was steady, dependable. He paid his bills on time, remembered to water the plants, picked up dog food without being asked. He wasn't exciting, but he felt safe. And after years of bad dates and flaky men, safe felt like winning the lottery. But safe can also mean boring. And boring can mean you miss the little ways someone starts to pull away. At first, it was small. He worked late more often, claiming new responsibilities at the office. He guarded his phone more, setting it face down on the table, muttering about annoying work emails. He started hitting the gym again, which I told myself was a good thing. Who doesn't want their partner to take care of themselves? But then came the absences. The late nights that didn't quite add up. The vague explanations that seemed rehearsed. The smell of cologne that didn't match the long shift he claimed he'd pulled. I told myself I was imagining things, that we were just in a rut, that long-term relationships had lulls, and this was normal. And then one day, I found the receipt. It was a Thursday afternoon, nothing remarkable about it. Mark had left his jacket on the back of the dining chair like always. I was tidying up, trying to shake off the sluggishness of working from home, when I slipped my hand into the pocket to empty out the crumpled receipts and gum wrappers he always left in there. And that's when my fingers brushed something stiff. Not gum, not coins, a pristine folded piece of thick paper. I pulled it out and unfolded it without thinking. It was a receipt from a high-end jewelry store downtown. At first, my stomach did a little flip, the good kind. Like, oh my God, maybe he's finally going to propose. Maybe this is it. My heart raced. I scanned down the list looking for a clue. And there it was. 14K white gold necklace, heart-shaped pendant, 1/200. My breath caught. A necklace, not a ring, not an engagement ring, not even a vague promise piece. Just a necklace I had never received. I checked the date. Last week, a day he'd told me he was working late. I stared at it so long the numbers blurred. I felt this sick mix of emotions, confusion, hope, dread. My brain went into gymnastics mode. Maybe he bought it for me and he's waiting for the right moment. Maybe it's for our anniversary. Maybe he's planning something romantic and I've ruined the surprise by snooping. But another voice whispered louder, "Then why hasn't he given it to you yet?" I tucked the receipt back exactly where I found it. My hands were shaking. My pulse was racing. The rest of the night, I could barely look at him. He sat on the couch, flipping through channels, while I sat next to him with a storm inside me. Every time he smiled, every casual question, "What's for dinner? Did you feed the dog?" felt like a performance, like a mask. And all I could think about was that necklace, sitting in some box, somewhere, waiting. For who? That night, I barely slept. Every sound from his side of the bed made me tense. I kept picturing him opening a jewelry box, not to me, but to someone else. By morning, I knew I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. I wish I could say I was calm, that I confronted him right away, waving the receipt like evidence in a courtroom drama. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared to be wrong, scared to be right. so I did what so many people do when their gut tells them something's off. I started digging. Mark and I didn't share finances, but sometimes he left his wallet on the counter or his email open on the laptop. That Saturday morning, while he was at the gym, I opened our shared desk drawer and found his last credit card statement. My heart pounded as I skimmed through it. Most charges were boring: gas stations, groceries, Netflix. But then I saw it. Jewelers Inc., 1245. 33. My chest tightened. It was real. The receipt wasn't a fluke, wasn't some recycled scrap he'd picked up. He had actually bought it. And below that, Bistro Verdi, 187-94, Wine Co., 92-10. Both on the same night as the jewelry purchase. I sat back in the chair, dizzy. Bistro Verde was a chic little restaurant downtown, the kind of place we talked about trying but never had because he'd said it was too pricey. And yet, there it was, almost $200, dinner for two. And the wine shop? He didn't even drink wine. That was me. And I hadn't gotten any. That night, I watched him out of the corner of my eye. He was on his phone more than usual, thumbs moving quickly, little smirks tugging at the corners of his mouth. When I asked what he was doing, he mumbled, "Work emails." At 10 p.m. on a Saturday? Sure. When he went to shower, he left the phone on the coffee table. For the first time in months, it wasn't locked. He must have been distracted. My hands shook as I picked it up. No incriminating text in plain sight, just group chats, memes, boring work stuff. But then I noticed a contact I didn't recognize near the top. L. Just L. I tapped it. The thread was short, but it was enough. L. Dinner was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. Mark. Glad you liked the surprise. L. Next week? Same place? My stomach flipped. Dinner, surprise, thinking about you. I dropped the phone like it had burned me and scrambled to put it back before he came out. The next day, I went full detective. I scrolled through his Instagram, through tagged photos, through his followers list. Nothing obvious. He wasn't careless. But then I checked the restaurant's location tag. Hundreds of photos. I scrolled and scrolled until one stopped me cold. A woman, pretty, mid-20s, smiling at a table at Bistro Verde. The timestamp matched the night of the jewelry purchase. And on the table in front of her, just barely visible, was a small square box. Not the necklace itself, but the box. My vision blurred. I zoomed in over and over, convincing myself it was just coincidence. But deep down, I knew. That night, I lay next to Mark in bed, staring at the ceiling while he snored softly. I thought about the necklace, about Elle, about the receipt crumpled in his jacket. And I realized I was sitting in a relationship that already didn't exist anymore. Once you start pulling at a thread, you can't stop. By this point, I already knew. The jewelry wasn't for me. But knowing in your gut and proving it are two different beasts. Proof makes it real. And I wasn't ready to let myself fully believe it until I had the smoking gun. The Instagram photo haunted me. I couldn't shake the image of that little box on the table, the woman's manicured fingers wrapped around a wine glass, her smile bright, effortless, like she was the one living the life I thought was mine. I didn't know who she was. Not yet. But the caption had tagged a friend. I tapped through. Then another. And then I found her. Laura. L. Her profile wasn't private. I clicked through her photos, each one a stab. Smiling selfies at trendy spots around town, gym shots. And then, 3 days after the receipt date, a photo of her wearing it, the necklace, the delicate chain catching the light, the heart pendant resting just above her collarbone. She had even captioned it, "When someone knows your taste better than you know yourself spoiled." I sat frozen, phone clutched in my hands. My throat closed, my heart thudded in my ears. It was no longer suspicion, no longer a maybe. It was fact, cold, undeniable fact. The necklace, I thought, for one foolish, hopeful moment and was meant for me, was gleaming on another woman's chest. I scrolled through her comments, desperate, masochistic. Gorgeous. One friend wrote, "Who's the lucky guy?" Another teased. And then, the kicker. Laura herself replied, "He's amazing. Keeping this one to myself, amazing." I laughed then, a bitter, hollow sound that scared even me, because the man she was calling amazing was the same man snoring in the other room. The same man who left dirty socks on the floor. The same man who told me he was too broke to split the cost of a new couch. Amazing. I snapped a screenshot. And another, and another. My hands moved on autopilot, documenting, archiving, making sure I had evidence when he inevitably tried to gaslight me. After that, I couldn't hold it together. I locked myself in the bathroom and slid down to the tile floor, sobbing into a towel so he wouldn't hear. The humiliation was crushing. Not just that he cheated, but that he had invested in it. That he had spent money, time, thought on her. Because jewelry wasn't casual. Jewelry was intentional. Jewelry was meaningful. Jewelry said, "I want you to think of me every time you wear this." And he'd given that meaning to her, not me. That night, when he came to bed, I couldn't even roll over to face him. I kept my back turned, every muscle tight with rage and grief. He kissed the back of my shoulder casually, murmured, "Night, babe," like the world wasn't burning down around us. I stared at the wall until morning, and by then, I knew what I had to do. I didn't sleep that night. My body was in bed, but my brain replayed every minute of the last 4 years. The late nights at work, the mysterious new cologne, the work dinners he never invited me to, the way his phone had become another limb. All of it converged into one truth I couldn't unsee. He had chosen someone else. By the time the sun rose, my tears had dried into something harder. Not sadness, not confusion. Resolve. I waited until Saturday morning, when he was at his most comfortable. He loved slow mornings, sweatpants, coffee, the weekend crossword spread across the kitchen table. He padded in barefoot, hair messy, kissed me absently on the cheek and muttered, "Morning, babe." I let him sit, let him pour his coffee, let him look content, safe. Then I dropped the receipt on the table between us. His eyes flicked down, then up, his face drained of color. "What's this?" I asked. My voice was eerily calm, too calm. He blinked. "It's nothing, just a receipt." "For a 1-200 necklace," I said flatly. "Dated last week. Funny, I don't remember you giving me jewelry." His mouth opened, closed. I slid my phone across the table. The screenshot of Laura smiling in her bathroom mirror, the necklace gleaming at her throat, her caption, her comments, all of it. "Maybe you just forgot," I said, my voice shaking now. "Maybe you accidentally gave my gift to another woman. Is that it, Mark? Was it just a mix-up at the jeweler's?" His mask cracked. The charming, dependable boyfriend act melted into something smaller, meaner. He sagged in his chair, ran a hand over his face. "Okay," he muttered. "Yes, I screwed up. Screwed up. Like he'd left laundry in the washer too long." "How long?" I demanded. My chest felt like it was splitting. "How long has this been going on?" He hesitated. "Too long." Then, "A few months. It doesn't mean anything." The words lit me on fire. "It doesn't mean anything? You bought her jewelry, Mark. You took her to dinner. You gave her my life. Don't stand there and tell me it doesn't mean anything." "She makes me feel different," he blurted. "Like I matter. Like I'm exciting again. With you, it's just routine." Routine. That word sliced deeper than any confession, because what he called routine was the life I had built with him. The home, the bills, the meals, the dog, the stability. The life he had claimed he wanted, until suddenly, he didn't. I don't remember every word I shouted, just fragments, sharp and jagged. "You coward. You let me believe in us. Do you know how pathetic this is?" He tried to backpedal, to grab my hands, to say he loved me, that he would end it with her, that it was just a phase. But I saw the truth in his eyes, the truth that once someone invests in another person, buys them gifts, whispers to them in the dark, there's no phase. There's only choice, and he had chosen. I told him to get out, not later, not after we'd talked it through. Now. He sputtered, begged, even tried the classic, "You're overreacting, don't throw everything away." But the thing about betrayal is that he had already thrown it away. I was just the one left holding the scraps. So I opened the door. Out. When he realized I wasn't bluffing, he left, slamming the door so hard a picture rattled off the wall. And just like that, the man I thought I'd marry was gone. The silence after was deafening. I stood in the middle of the living room, shaking, staring at the table where the receipt still lay. Proof. Evidence. The trigger that had blown my life apart. I wanted to scream, to cry, to smash every dish in the kitchen. Instead, I sank to the floor and let the sobs come. Ugly, heaving sobs that racked my whole body until I was hoarse. But even through the tears, I felt something else. Relief. Because as devastating as it was, at least I wasn't crazy anymore. At least the gaslighting, the excuses, the gut feelings, they were all justified. The truth was brutal, but it was mine. And now I could decide what to do with it. When the door slammed behind Mark, I thought the hard part was over. I had confronted him, forced him out, drawn the line. But betrayal doesn't end when the cheater leaves. It lingers. It soaks into your friendships, your family, your routines. It rewrites every memory you thought was safe. That first week felt like living inside an echo chamber of grief. Every corner of the apartment carried a ghost. His shoes by the door, his favorite mug in the cabinet, the dent in the couch cushion where he always sat. I couldn't escape him, but I couldn't bear to touch any of it either. So I walked around in circles, avoiding the reminders, eating dry cereal out of the box because cooking felt impossible. The necklace haunted me most of all. Not the physical necklace, I never saw it in person, but the idea of it. I kept picturing it gleaming on Laura's chest, catching the light as she laughed, as she leaned across a table to kiss him. The thought made me nauseous. Word got out faster than I expected. I hadn't told many people, just my sister, who came over that first night to sit with me while I cried into a pile of tissues. But somehow, within days, texts started rolling in. "Are you okay? I heard about Mark. Wait, is it true? Jewelry? Another girl? Do you need me to come over?" The sympathy was a double-edged sword. On one hand, I needed it. Needed to feel like I wasn't alone. On the other, every new message meant more people knew. More people picturing me as the fool, the girlfriend who found out through a receipt while everyone else probably already suspected. And then there were the friends who stayed his friends. The ones who texted things like, "I know he messed up, but he really loves you. Don't you think you could work it out?" Those messages made me furious. Work it out? With the man who bought another woman jewelry and let me sit beside him every night clueless? With the man who called me routine while whining and dining someone else? No. I stopped responding to those people, deleted them from my phone. If you can't stand with me in the fire, you don't deserve to be with me when I walk out of it. Telling my parents was brutal. I called my mom the day after, voice still raw from crying. "It's over. He cheated. I found proof." She went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Come home." So I did. I packed a bag, left the apartment with its ghosts, and drove to my parents' house. My mom cooked my favorite meals, hovering over me like I was fragile glass. My dad, quieter, seethed in his own way. He muttered things like, "If I see that boy again, it won't be pretty." My little brother tried to lighten the mood. He cracked dumb jokes, brought me snacks, acted like everything was normal. And for a few moments, it helped. But then I'd crawl into the old twin bed in my childhood room, stare at the glow-in-the-dark stars still stuck to the ceiling, and feel like I'd failed at adulthood. Like I was back at square one, while Laura got the necklace and the dinners and the man I thought was mine. After the numbness, the anger came. It started small, a scoff at his name on a junk mail envelope, a slammed cupboard when I found his leftover protein powder, then bigger. I tore through the apartment, filling garbage bags with anything that smelled like him, clothes, books, toiletries. I dragged them to the dumpster at midnight, one bag after another, my heart pounding like a war drum. I deleted every photo of us from my phone, every text thread, blocked him on everything. Even blocked his family, who had sent me a few awkward, "We're so sorry, but we hope you two can work it out" messages. I didn't want to work it out. I wanted to burn it down. Of course he tried. The first week he texted constantly. Apologies, please, promises. It was a mistake. She means nothing. I love you, not her. I ignored them. Then the gifts started. Flowers at my door, a box of chocolates, a letter handwritten, pages of excuses and declarations of love. I almost cracked, almost. But then I remembered the necklace, the restaurant, the wine, the way he had looked at her in that photo. Proud, smug, like a man showing off his prize. And I stayed strong. It took months. Therapy helped. Long runs helped. Friends who showed up helped. My sister dragging me out to dance in her kitchen helped. Slowly, the necklace stopped haunting me. Laura's smug little caption stopped burning in my brain. I started to see Mark for what he was. Not the dependable man I thought I loved, but someone too weak to value what he had. Someone who needed the thrill of a shiny new thing, even if it meant shattering the life we'd built. And I started to see myself differently too. Not as the fool who missed the signs, but as the woman strong enough to walk away once the truth hit. It's been over a year now. Mark and Laura didn't last. I found out through a mutual acquaintance. Apparently she dumped him when she realized he wasn't as amazing as she thought once the thrill wore off. The necklace? Who knows? Maybe it's tucked in her drawer, collecting dust. Maybe she sold it. Maybe she gave it back. But me, I don't care anymore, because I've learned something important. Jewelry tarnishes, lies rot. But truth sets you free. And no receipt will ever blindside me like that again.